This happened today, and it really messed with me. I've been thinking about it all day and all evening. I took my 5-year-old son and 3-month-old daughter to the playground to meet a friend and her daughter. The playground has regular equipment, a huge parking lot, a big grassy area, and trees surrounding the play area. On the other side of the trees is some sort of development project they're working on. The area this school is in is pretty rural, with a bunch of twisty roads and random buildings. I've never thought about or noticed this until today. We get to the park and meet up with my friend. Another mom we know is there with her 2 girls too. The only other people there are a dad with a little girl and a boy who look to be somewhere between 10 and 12. So the moms are all sitting, chatting, playing with my adorable daughter, and having a good time. The kids are playing together, and everything is good. Eventually, all the kids from our group kind of wander off through the playground doing their own thing. The seesaws are in a shady area. Next to them is a big stretch of grass, then the trees with the semi-developed area behind that. My son wants to seesaw, but nobody wants to do it with him. I get up to go help him, and the 10-ish-year-old boy comes over and says, "Hi, do you want me to play with him?" Which was a little strange that he asked me and not my son, but I said, "Sure, bud, go ahead." He gets on the other side and starts seesawing with him. His demeanor was so strange. He didn't smile. His voice was completely flat. He didn't say a word to my son. He just seesawed with him. My son was oblivious and chatting away at him. After a few minutes, I started walking back to my bench, and I hear the boy start talking with my son. Okay, so maybe he's shy around grown-ups. I sit down and start talking to my friends, and the dad walks near us. I say, "Hey, it was really sweet of your son to offer to play with mine," and smile at him. He looks at me and goes, "He's not my son. I don't know who he is." He walked over and asked if I wanted him to play with my daughter, and then just kind of followed us around until you guys got here. He sort of laughed and shook his head. I got a very uneasy feeling in my stomach and looked over to the seesaws. They're gone. I jump up, hand my daughter to my friend, and run in that direction, yelling my son's name. I see them walking, almost to the trees. The trees are not close. I'd guess a football field or so away from the play area. I got this awful feeling and ran as fast as I could, yelling my son's name. He turned around and started trying to walk to me, and the little boy grabbed his arm and tried to pull him toward the trees. He got upset and started saying, "Hey, let go." Now usually this is not a quality about my son that brings me anything but trouble, but he does not like to be grabbed, pushed, or pulled, and he has ADHD, so when he gets frustrated, it usually comes out in aggressive ways. I was so thankful for this today. He started punching the boy and headbutting him like a little crazy person. The boy let go as I got to them and ran to the trees. My friends finally realized something was going on, so they're standing at the edge of the play area looking confused. My son is crying, and I'm shaking. I asked my son where he was going, and he said his friend wanted to take him to see Ryan from Ryan Toy Reviews. It's his favorite YouTube channel, and he talks about it non-stop. He told the boy about Ryan, and apparently the boy told him that he knew where Ryan lived, and asked my son if he wanted to go visit him and play. So, of course, my son said yes. I don't know what the intention was. It was a kid. I don't understand why he would lie to my son, why he wanted him to go into the woods. Maybe it was innocent, but I don't think it was. This happened a long time ago, when I was about 5 or 6 years old. I am 27 now. I didn't remember this until I was around 15, and after I did, I asked my mom if it was a real memory or just a dream. She confirmed it happened, or at least the parts she knew of. I live in the Netherlands, always have. The conversations were in Dutch, which I will translate as much as possible. As a kid, I lived in a quiet neighborhood with around 100 houses. It was set up in a sort of big circle, with only one way for cars to enter, and only 2 other ways to enter by foot or bicycle. We lived on the part of the circle closest to the car entrance, which we called the front street. The other side of the circle we called the back street. On the back street side, there was a small playground, which could be seen easily from the houses there. It had 2 swings on a T-shaped blue swing set, a yellow climbing tool shaped like a snail, and a small football field with 2 goals. I was allowed to play outside on my own, but wasn't allowed to go to the back street by myself. I did so anyway that day and decided to go to the swings. There was nobody there when I arrived, probably as it was close to dinner time. I was playing around when suddenly 2 guys, whom I now think were between 14 and 16, came up to me. I wasn't scared and figured they were just passing through, until one of them suddenly grabbed me from behind and held a pocket knife to my throat. I was, of course, very scared, and they started moving me further into the playground, to a part filled with bushes and out of sight of the houses. At this moment, I was too scared to speak and didn't move at all. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, his grip on me loosened, and looking around I saw why. A woman was walking down the street in front of the playground. I broke loose and ran to her, muttered out what had just happened, and ran off again. When I got home a moment afterwards, I didn't tell my mom because I was still too scared. I also thought I would get in trouble for going to the back street when she told me not to, so not telling seemed better. A few months later, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to a woman about my mom's age and a boy, one of the 2 boys from that day. I didn't say anything to them, left the door open and ran to my mom. I said to her, "That's him." She had no clue what I was talking about, so I quickly explained. She confronted them, the boy and apparently his mother, but he, of course, denied it. As my mom couldn't be fully sure either, she didn't follow up on it. When I was 14 years old, I spent a lot of time at a particular friend's house. Jennifer lived on a long, stretched-out dirt road in the woods, with only a few neighbors spaced far apart. The main road that Jennifer's neighborhood was on had another neighborhood just across from hers. This neighborhood was a pretty large subdivision with a lot of kids that we knew, so we visited it often during the summer to hang out at the pool and playground. My friends and I started getting pretty rebellious, so late at night when Jennifer's parents fell asleep, we'd sneak out of the back door and walk to the lake. Once we got brave enough, we walked to the neighborhood across the street, walking along the main road. We did this a few times together, and one night we brought along another friend. Jennifer, Amber, and I walked down the road on our way to the neighborhood playground. Walking through the subdivision, we were noisy, laughing and shushing each other. We made it to the playground around 1 a.m. and swung on the swings, talking to each other. It's important to stress that at this time, our parents warned us about a man who was abducting young girls our age, early in the morning from bus stops. The investigation was ongoing, so children were being warned to be careful, and if we saw anyone suspicious, to tell someone. As Jennifer and Amber continued talking, I was getting a little nervous about being out so late. I started to calm down and took a look at our surroundings. Across from us on the swings were 3 small trees grown in a row with about 5 feet of space between them. The streetlights still illuminated the whole neighborhood and park, enough to see what was going on around us. As I had my attention in that direction, the silhouette of a very tall man began walking behind each tree. I can only assume he was trying to get a better view of us. If he knew the playground wouldn't be empty this late at night, he must have either watched us on previous nights when we visited, or started following us at some point on our way there. After clearly seeing the man, I whispered to my friends that we needed to go, and that it was getting late. Thankfully, neither of them protested. The tension of knowing that we weren't alone was heavy, and all of us grew uncomfortable, even though I had been the only one to see that someone was with us. We paced home, and on the way out of the subdivision, I told them what I had seen and why we needed to hurry home. We ran back down the road and through Jennifer's neighborhood for our lives. Needless to say, we learned our lesson and never sneaked out on foot ever again.